What's up, everyone, and welcome back. Today is the 11th of December, 2024. My name is Derek, and welcome back as we decode the arrest of Luigi Mangione, the man who is accused of gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside of a Hilton hotel in New York City. Down in the description below, you'll find a link to one of the most recent videos on my channel where I decode at length the murder of Brian Thompson and how it's all connected to the Hilton hotel chain and its founder, Conrad Hilton. Well, today we're going to take a look at the suspect that emerged in the wake of this tragedy. Well, some will call it a tragedy, others won't. But what we find in this name, Luigi Mangione, directs us to a completely new riddle. So in this video, we'll explain how this story is a numeric riddle to the Mario brothers, Mario and Luigi. Also, in my second part of that video, I talked about how it was all connected to the Eclipse code. And the Mario game we'll be looking at is called Dark Moon. And of course, the moon goes a little bit dark during a total lunar eclipse. So we'll look at how it syncs up with that as well as the Catholic Church. Remember, this past weekend, we had the reopening of a Catholic church in France, Notre Dame, that was attended by Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump himself survived an assassination attempt back in July this year, and we'll explore how the numerology of that attempt, as well as that of Donald Trump, is also connected to this riddle. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to be making some measurements to the date on the fake ID for Mangione. The ID he checked into the hostel in New York with had the name Mark Rosario. And just a quick shout out to the channel Decoding with Cody. His channel is also linked below. And he'll actually be doing a video on Trump and a big plane crash that happened last week. So I'm going to jump in on there and help him out with that video as well. So that'll be live after this one is over. Again, links in the description below. So this name, Mark Rosario, think about this. If you combine these names, you kind of get a Mario. Mark Rosario reminds us of Mario. Well, then his real name turns out to be Luigi Mangione. Now, when I saw this name, this immediately popped into my head. Luigi's Mansion. To solidify this connection, in the game Luigi's Mansion, Dark Moon, we see Luigi with a gun strapped to his back, specifically a ghost gun, as we see the ghosts floating around behind him. Well, in this murder of the United Healthcare CEO, it's being reported that Mangione used a 3D printed ghost gun. Now, also, just last month, the first new Mario and Luigi game was in 9 years was released. This is a role-playing series that's separate from all the other Mario titles. And would you believe this is the first 3D game in the series? So this gives us a strong thematic connection to Mario and Luigi, but what we're also going to look at are the numbers that underlie this whole story. For starters, let's look at the release date of Luigi's Mansion, which first came out on the 20th of March back in 2013. In Japan, where this game was first released, that date is written 20/3. This brings us to the language of Gematria, where every letter, number, word, name, phrase, all has an associated numeric value. In the alphabetic order, the phrase total lunar eclipse equals 203. Again, the name of the game, Dark Moon. Now, the next time we'll see a total lunar eclipse on planet Earth is on March 14th, or 314. Number nerds like myself call this Pi Day, as pi 3.14. In Satanic Gematria, the word eclipse equals 314. But let's also look at the reverse alphabetic order, which is identical to the ordinal cipher, but with the 26-letter English alphabet reversed. Using that method, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon has gematria of 314, the 3 digits of pi. When Luigi Mangione used his ghost gun to kill the CEO of United Healthcare, it was 100 days before that total lunar eclipse on March 14th. And in the standard reduction or Pythagorean cipher, the game's name also sums to 100. So this assassination of Brian Thompson, when you measure from the release of Luigi's Mansion on March 20th of 2013 to the murder, we find it was exactly 611 weeks from the release of the game to the assassination. And in Latin Gematria, the cipher which I say in every video is the most significant in this entire study, the word assassination sums to 611. Now, Luigi was arrested at a McDonald's. And earlier this year, I did a video on the death of Morgan Spurlock. Morgan Spurlock was made famous for his film about McDonald's and how bad the food there really is. And then a couple months later, Donald Trump showed up at a McDonald's during his presidential campaign, showed up at the Friar, and spent a lot of time there. And of course, a Donald working at McDonald's. There was a strong numeric riddle there, and I did a video on that in a super stream. Whatever super stream I had Grimace in, number 90, check that out for more on that story. But the number 611 was coded into the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, who was allegedly shot at 6:11 p.m. That was on the date July 13th, which was 116 days before November 6th, the date written 11/6. And it was November 6th when Donald Trump was announced the winner of this year's presidential election. Well, the 611 also popped up when you measure to the death of Morgan Spurlock, who died on May 23rd this year. From the death of Spurlock to the murder of Brian Thompson is 6 months, 11 days. 611 is also the gematria of Brotherhood of Death, which is the name for the Skull and Bones Society at Yale University. And we'll talk more about Skull and Bones a little bit later as we go. Notice how the name Donald sums to 119 in Latin. When Luigi was arrested on Monday, it was 1 month and 19 days after Donald Trump worked at McDonald's. And when Trump worked at a McDonald's, it was in southwestern Pennsylvania, which is the same exact region of the country he was shot in. Well, when Luigi Mangione was arrested, it was at a McDonald's in southwestern Pennsylvania. When Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon was first released, this game came out during Brown lunation number 1116. So every moon since the year 1923 has been numbered. And when Dark Moon came out, It was under moon number 1116, which is a lot like this 611 code that we're looking at. This is the same lunation that Pope Francis became the Pope during. Notice how he took office exactly 1 week before the game's release. And it's worth mentioning 1 week has matching 33 Gematria with 7 days. Lunar equals 33, and so does eclipse. So it makes sense that this game, featuring the dark moon, would come out exactly 1 week after Pope Francis was elected. And consider that in the 33rd verse of the Bible, God rests on the 7th day. Now, 1116, the lunation for Luigi's Mansion and Pope Francis's papacy. Still working on my first cup of coffee this morning. But 1116 is another number important to Mario, whose creator, Shigeru Miyamoto, was born on November 16th, or 1116. And of course, this is on the heels of the big Pearl Harbor riddle. You know, Nintendo is a Japanese company. And if you watch the last video on my channel, Superstream 93, this is all about the Pearl Harbor riddle with the Catholic Church. In fact, a Japanese wrestler just won the United States Championship a couple of weeks ago in the WWE. Francis is the 266th Pope. Brian Thompson was killed exactly 266 weeks after the third Luigi's Mansion game, which was released in 2019. So, of course, there's deeper riddles to unpack here. But, you know, with this guy being spotted at a Starbucks before the murder, and now being arrested at a McDonald's, I mean, who actually sits inside a McDonald's and eats a hash brown? I don't know anybody who does that. But it's almost like this whole operation is just one giant corporate commercial. But of course, it can't be a commercial, because if it was, that means this Luigi Mangione guy would have to be somehow connected to the wealthy elite in this... well, look at this. He is related to a prominent Maryland family. So as with anything in the mainstream media, there's always a lot more to the story than what's revealed in the normal reports. And numerology helps give you the clue to the truth of what's happening. So, obviously, this is synced to the Dark Moon game from Luigi's Mansion. Luigi Mangione. But this is also synced to the newest Mario and Luigi game, which is called Brothership. And remember, Yale University, home to the Skull and Bone Society, which is also known as the Brotherhood of Death. And this might seem a little bit dark to some people, but even these happy little cartoon characters coming from the cutesy land of Japan, Skull and Bones riddles can even be found within here. So notice first how the name Brothership, the name of this new game, sums to 138 in the alphabetic order. On his fake ID, Luigi used the name Mark Rosario, which equals 138. His real name, in reverse, Mangione, also equals 138. Well, 138 is the ordinal gematria of Donald Trump. Donald Trump was born in the year 1946. And when the first Mario and Luigi game came out, this was called Superstar Saga back in 2003. The release of that game was 1,946 days after the date on Mangione's fake ID. And just so you understand, this date on his fake ID is not random. July 21st, 1998 is shown as his birthday. This has since been corrected to May 6th. We'll look at that in a little bit. But why did they choose the 21st of July? The date written 21/7 in Japan. And by the way, it's worth mentioning that Luigi Mangione actually lived in Japan, according to the news. So if I can find this in the article and not make a fool out of myself. Yeah, so down here, he traveled to Asia for several months in early 2024. And he was in Japan until at least May. So he was in the land of Nintendo just a few months ago. Well, anyways, back to this date, 217. The name Luigi Nicholas Mangione, his full name, sums to 217. So is it random that he chose the 21st of July for his fake ID? Consider that if you measure from his real birthday to the date he was arrested, well, he was arrested 217 days after his birthday. So I want to talk a little bit about the number 33 before I go on to the Skull and Bones code. In reduction, the word police equals 33. Luigi was arrested a span of 33 days after the release of the new Mario and Luigi game. His arrest was also a span of 3 weeks and 3 days after Shigeru Miyamoto's birthday. This was a number I discussed in the killing of Thompson at a Hilton in New York, which all summed to 33. The Twin Towers stood for 33 years. And he was the CEO of United Healthcare, which also has the 330. If you measure from the date on his fake ID, you get a 33 in Luigi's age for the murder and for the Pi Day eclipse next year. But as with any riddle connected to the Pi Day eclipse, the number 666 is important as well. Notice how 33 sums to 66 and 60 in the reduction methods. In Latin, Pi Day eclipse is a 666. Both Mario and Luigi and brothership each equals 60 and 66 in reduction. And when you write out the full name of the game, Mario and Luigi brothership, using standard Gematria, which is a cipher that's identical to Latin, but it uses the current English alphabetic order. Mario and Luigi brothership sums to 1197, just like 666. Mario's creator Miyamoto has 666 Gematria. Luigi was arrested in Altoona, which equals 666, reverse Sumerian. The Sumerian method multiplies the alphabetic order by 6. This is the cipher said to reveal the number of the beast. And of course, Luigi used a ghost gun, which equals 666, just like Luigi did back in Luigi's Mansion. There's more 666 links, but let's look at the Skull and Bones riddle. Now, if you look up the real birthday of Luigi Mangione, born very close to my nephew's birthday, in fact. So from that date to the date of the murder, Mangione killed Brian Thompson, reportedly, when he was 9,709 days old. 9709. In Gematria, Mario and Luigi brothership has matching 907 Gematria with Brian Robert Thompson, the name of the victim. 97 is also the reduction value of Brotherhood of Death. In fact, death on its own, also summing to 97. Brotherhood of Death 97 as well. Mario and Luigi Brothership came out 128 days before the Pi Day eclipse. Notice how the word brotherhood equals 128. So does Pi Day using Fibonacci numbers. 128 days before the Pi Day eclipse. Well, notice Mangione's fake ID, which reveals his address to be 128 Sherman Place. Now, this address does not really exist, as it's a fake ID. But it's interesting that the 128 is there, because if you look at his real birthday, May 6th of 1998, that's a date with primary numerology of 128. 5 plus 6 plus 19 plus 98. Mario and Luigi Brothership came out 1 year and 30 days after Yale University turned 322 years old in the year 2023. So we call this Yale's special anniversary, because 322 is the number on the skull and bones emblem, and 223 is the gematria of skull and crossbones. Using the ampersand, skull and bones equals 130, just like the measurement to the release of this Brothership game. The victim's full name sums to 2023. When Luigi Mangione was arrested, Shigeru Miyamoto had the 322 in his number of days old. Using capitals letters, Luigi's mansion equals 322. Now, while Skull and Crossbones has the 223 in ordinal, notice how it's also 61 in reduction. Luigi was arrested exactly 61 weeks after Yale's special anniversary. Also think about how Skull and Crossbones equals the 56th prime number. 56 reflects the birthday of the suspect, May 6th, 5-6. Brotherhood of Death also has gematria of 187 in the alphabetic order. A fitting number, as this is recognized as the homicide code in many parts of the country. Total Eclipse 187, Altoona, PA, where he was arrested, 187. This was a number I discussed in the death of CEO Brian Thompson, which equals 187. In reverse, Brian Thompson is 187, and his full name is 1187. Thompson was killed 1 year, 56 days after Yale's big anniversary. 156 is a huge eclipse number. Eclipses always occur 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases after the last one. But also look at how 666, Mario and Luigi, and Donald J. Trump all also have 156 gematria. And by the way, I forgot to mention this at the top of my video, and I really should have. But a couple months ago, I made a super stream called The Brian Files. See this? Super stream number 85. And I talk about how all of these stories connected to people named Brian are all synced up to the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. And now we get this insane assassination of a guy named Brian, and it's completely synced up to the killing or the shooting of Donald Trump. So I'll leave a couple more links down in the description below if you want to find out more. But yeah, these are trends we've been following all year. And it's fun to see how clues that we picked up on earlier manifested in the future. All right, everyone. That'll do it for this video. Peace, love, God bless. Once again, I'll be a guest on Cody's stream shortly after this ends. So, yeah, hopefully see you over there. See ya.